Hello, Galaxy! I'm Chris Pirillo, and you've tuned into the LockerGnome Daily Report, or TLDR short. It's usually about an hour long, and it's full of tech stuff. But before I get to the tech stuff, first I kind of address something that I'm interested in talking about, and then I do a Pirillo Picks, and I stream this live. If you haven't seen it live, then you may not be a patron. You can be a patron by heading over to chrispirillo.com to unlock the full TLDR experience, including the tech talk, which I'll be getting to in a bit. First, I really want to cover something that is very interesting to me, very fascinating. I'm very passionate about this, and I think many of you realize this. As last night, I was saying I had another episode. I did. This was the image that I posted to social. Oh, by the way, I don't know if Cassie Lowe is here, but she's a Star Trek fan, and she saw The Force Awakens for the first time. I didn't find out what she thought. I am curious to know. I took Eric, who's the person who helps process audio and the video for TLDR, my Battlefront gameplay, and Pirillo Picks. He hadn't seen The Force Awakens yet because his wife didn't want to go, so I basically took him last night. We saw it in IMAX 3D. That was my first time seeing it in IMAX 3D. Loved it. Probably my favorite viewing. In terms of visuals, I like the 3D, The Force Awakens, more than the 2D. I'm saying it. I'm saying it right now. I like the 3D more, and I've seen it now 5 times. When I throw the idea out there that there are 3 ways the new Star Wars trilogy will top the original, I am not saying, by the way, that it's way better than the original, like demonstrably. I'm not. I'm just saying that there are 3 ways in which the new Star Wars trilogy could be better or will top the original. Like, absolutely. And it's already breaking all records. It's shattering records. And I expect it to continue to do that. Even adjusting for inflation, it's driving a lot of revenue. A lot. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So when I say that The Force Awakens is going to top, or the next trilogy, not just The Force Awakens, the next trilogy, 7, 8, 9, it will top the original, just take it for what it is. You can't destroy a classic, okay? And that's even one of the points that I made here on my note. You can't top a classic. And that is exactly where Star Wars fits. And Empire, and arguably Return of the Jedi. And Star Wars is a classic. But it's so classic that some people just haven't seen it because it's so old. Like me. Like, some people haven't seen me because I am so old. I am older than Star Wars. I want to, I need a t-shirt that says that. I am older than Star Wars. That's something that means something to some of us. So you can't top a classic. I'm not saying they're the new classics. That's not what I'm saying. Because you can't. It's just it doesn't even have to be a good movie if it's a classic. It's just a classic. It's just it spawned so much interest and fascination with this galaxy that we've known and loved, some of us, most of our lives. Most. Not all. Most. So you can't top a classic. I'm going to be careful about that. One thing that, I've noticed, and even when I was a kid, and this is something that actually came up in a topic of conversation last night around the movie, whether or not Eric was going to take his son, Johnny. You've met them both in the vlog. The pace of the movie was faster, The Force Awakens, compared to the Star Wars, A New Hope. And I remember distinctly, seeing Star Wars on TV, when it ran on TV, back in the day, when I was a kid. And this is something that it may sound routine now, but you might remember, if you're this old, you were lucky if you caught Star Wars like that, because we didn't even have VHS at the time. You couldn't record movies. The movies just weren't broadcast like that. You caught it when it happened, or you didn't see it at all. Or you saw it in the theater, or you didn't see it at all. And I remember, believe it or not, as a kid, being more interested, like halfway through the movie, in playing Star Wars than watching the movie. And, obviously I've seen the movie many, many, many times. But the pacing of the movie is... it was certainly up to speed for the time in which it was produced. And I think that's what kind of keeps it as a classic. But The Force Awakens pace, some people said, there's slow moments. I'm like, there are, because I don't see it. And I have a short attention span, an insanely short attention span. And it kept my interest, and it kept Eric's interest, and he thinks that Johnny might even sit through it. I mean, it just seems that the action was well timed, and I think part of that tops the original movie, the original, or at least A New Hope, and even to a certain degree Empire, and to a certain degree Jedi. Jedi has a faster pace that's what I feel, than A New Hope does. Empire is more like you're drawn into the characters and figuring out what's happening, what's going. It tells a great story, but it's the pacing at which the story moves along that is just different. It's a bit slower in comparison, and some people don't like that. Some people love it, but I think that's one way that the new trilogy, because it's being made today, with today's directors, and today's experience, I think is going to have a faster pace. The next thing that I might have said, that I think the new trilogy will, top the original trilogy, and again. The new trilogy could only exist because of the original trilogy. The new trilogy builds upon the original trilogy. I mean, if anything, that solidifies, the original trilogy, because I'm sure my words are going to get taken out of context. I think that another aspect of it is special effects. This is something that George Lucas tried to correct with the special editions. Many fans, have rebuked the special editions outright, because he messed with a classic. That's the problem with classics sometimes. You mess with a classic, oh my God. But, you just can't deny. However many years later, we've got amazing special effects, all the way down to, this is something that jumped out at me this weekend. I go on nostalgic trips just about every day. Not physical trips, mental trips. And for some reason, Lopty Neck jumped in my head. Now, this was a song that played in Jabba's Palace. Ice Noodles and Max Rebo and Droopy McCool played this song. It was actually in the first run of Return of the Jedi, or the original runs of Return of the Jedi before Jedi Rocks was done. And I don't mind Jedi Rocks, but Lopty Neck was it. And I remember being excited when the video would play on MTV, back when MTV, the M was short for music. I'm old. So Lopty Neck, I watched the video, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize it was not bad, but as... you really had to suspend disbelief. It was just the period of time in which Jedi was produced in the 80s. I looked at one of the Quarren, it was known as Squidhead, and his tentacles were obviously just like plastic, just bouncy plastic. And I'm like, as an adult, I see it and I'm like, wow, that's bad. Because I've been spoiled over these years with more realistic effects and more realistic design and more realistic everything, and that's something that I think that will be topped. I mean, The Force Awakens absolutely tops outright. It doesn't take away from the classics, but I think it's going to top in terms of special effects. I think it already has topped, and I don't think there's a better scene than Poe's execution of several TIE fighters on Takodana, and Finn said, "Woo, that's one hell of a pilot," or basically something along those lines. Which is great. So I think the special effects, are more believable, more realistic, and I think they easily will top the what we saw in the original trilogy. And I don't mind that. Special effects all the way down to creature design. I mean, it's just, that's where we are, and I think it's great. Not to say that the puppetry or the design of creatures didn't remind me of the original trilogy. It's just they were done better. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. This is not, flat fact. It's my opinion. Sometimes you have to watch movies too. There's some classics, right? There's some timeless movies, but sometimes you have to watch them not just for what they are, but for the period of time in which they were produced. They, in many ways, the films reflect their time, and some of that could be lost over time. I mean, you have Star Wars produced with orchestral music at a time that movies were not produced with a score like that. Nowadays, yeah, it's commonplace, right? It's a given, right? Of course, it's going to have that kind of score. It wasn't the same back then at all. So, but now it's kind of been. I'm not going to say muddied, but that was part of something that made it even more unique back then, that now it's unique because it was, doing what it did at the time, but it's become a bit more commonplace. But again, that just solidifies it as a classic. I think the one way, and many people may disagree with me on this, and this is one of the reasons I say that for the last point I want to make, the one way that I think the next trilogy, this trilogy that we're in, the current trilogy, The Force Awakens, Episode 7, 8, and 9, those three movies, 7, 8, and 9, the biggest way I think they're going to trump or top the original trilogy is one reason, and this is something that I don't think anybody can deny. 7 was made with the intention that 8 and 9 are also going to be produced. In fact, some of the things that Rian Johnson is working on with 8, he had conversations, a collaborative process with J.J. Abrams to have J.J. change some things in 7, which they did. They went back and forth. They collaborated. 7, 8, and 9 were meant to be produced. Episode 4, when it ran in theaters, was not originally... When I saw it, it was not episode 4. It was just Star Wars, which, is built upon the Star Wars. It was just that. We didn't know we were going to get an episode 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We didn't know. And so Star Wars was made, and wonderfully so, with the intent that was it. That was it. And some of the story, that could have been drawn out over the period of 3 films or longer, were smashed into one film. And so we only thought, George and team only thought there was only going to be the Star Wars, that one movie. It then became Episode 4. And it wasn't Episode 4 outright. And I think that just that alone makes the new trilogy something that I think was fully baked and meant to be together. And I think 7, 8, and 9, I said this in my review of The Force Awakens, 7, 8, and 9 I think are going to play better back-to-back than 4, 5, and 6. Or 1, 2, and 3. There you go. I've now brought up the prequels. I really do believe that, if only because they were designed to play with one another, as well as play against the original trilogy. So, that to me, I think is that makes the new trilogy. It's going to top the original trilogy because they were designed to work together outright. The original trilogy was not. You cannot argue this point. You cannot. This is a fact. But it's my opinion that it's one of the reasons the newer trilogy is going to top the original one. I think 4, 5, and 6 play well enough back to back. They feel like they belong together. You've got the story and the same characters and a general purpose. But I really do believe that it's going to make for a very exciting trilogy. Very exciting trilogy. Better than 1, 2, 3, absolutely. And then certainly I think better than the original trilogy, even though the original trilogy is a classic. It's bringing in a new generation of Star Wars fans. And I think that to me is a winner because they've forgotten about, I'm not going to say forgotten. It's unique. Say The Force Awakens, because it's awakened in people, not just fans, but Star Wars is kind of reawakened in people. In fact, give me a second. I'm going to pull up this wonderful. It's a non-presentation really. It's something that I like doing in TLDR so that everybody who's deserving of getting their name broadcast in TLDR gets their name broadcast. These are some of my patrons, by the way, if I have to mention that again. I'll be getting to Pirillo picks in just a bit, but I wanted to point out one email that I got today, if I can find the dang thing. Okay, hang on. Man, I gotta wake up. That's what I gotta do. Okay, where is it? Dude, don't tell me I deleted it. Oh, there we go. Okay. I wanted to send this email to you to let you know, I'm going to possibly keep this person's name anonymous, to let you know that the moment after I walked out of the theater and discussed the movie with my best friends, my first thought was, oh my god, I wonder what Chris Pirillo thought of it. Then it hit me. I wasn't watching your videos anymore. And that was something that needed to change. First off, let me say, Jedi is adorable. Oh my god, she steals every scene in your vlog. I was taken aback when I saw just how much Star Wars content you provided. For the last 2 years, I've been in full Star Wars obsession mode, and like an idiot, I've been searching everywhere for a place to geek out about the Star Wars, or about the Wars, and it was exactly in the place I left. I just wanted to say thank you so much for being you, for providing such a fun community for like-minded individuals who love technology and Star Wars. You are an inspiration to me in so many ways. At the moment, I'm back in school working full-time for the best company. I couldn't have been happier. I believe what keeps me going and gives me such a determined drive is the fact that I know I can be me and that there is a career to be made in doing what I love to do, and you are a shining example of that. And then he goes on in terms of, and I recognize his name in terms of Star Wars, but for many people, the prequels kind of pushed him away, and but the new trilogy, or I guess 7, is bringing him back. And I can feel that excitement. It's great. It's wonderful to be in that wave. Even though for me, I can't say that, I kind of fall into that same group where the prequels were all we had, or what we got excited about was very, very, it was a microcosm of the general excitement. Rebels has been great. Certainly, there have been bits and pieces from EU that have drawn people in, and video games, but, nothing like a Star Wars movie. And so The Force Awakens, I think, has awakened a lot of people and is making a completely new generation of Star Wars fans and reminding an older generation of what Star Wars was to them. So it's a huge resurgence. I mean, it was the perfect thing to do. And, despite the array of issues that people may take with the movie, it did exactly what it needed to do. And I think that was to re-inspire, re-energize a fan base. And I'm certainly proud to be a part of that. Now, I was always proud, though. I've got, certain thoughts about the original trilogy, certain thoughts about the prequel, certain thoughts about everything. I mean, we all have opinions. And you know what? We can exist in the same fandom. We can. Just don't be a jerk about it. These are just my opinions. And I'm happy to have opinions. I love these opinions. So I really think those are the aspects that will make the new trilogy top the old trilogy. Forget money for a second. I don't care. I'm not going to say the action figures are going to be It's all opinion, man. I do want to move on to today's Pirillo picks. I'm going to do that live, and then I'm going to be doing tech questions and answers with the patrons, as well as talking about today's tech news. And I've got a doozy. Ooh, I've got a doozy on the tech news front. So I'm going to do that now. If you're a patron, you can tune in to the rest of the TLDR broadcast. Everybody else, well, you can become a patron by heading over to chrispirillo.com. Today's free podcast highlight was brought to you by all of my active patrons from chrispirillo.com. If you want access to the full TLDR episodes, both audio, video, past, present, and future, which can be up to an hour long or longer, with even more tech insight from me every weekday, plus other bonus content without ads, and supporting me at the same time, you can sign up to become one of my supernomies too. This is just a brief taste of what I'm producing for you daily. Again, get more through chrispirillo.com.